Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that made me cry last year. This is something I actively seek out. I like it in my books. I love a book that makes me feel something. I'm always looking for people's recs on the books that made them cry as well. I'm going to talk about this in a way that doesn't give direct plot spoilers, but still talks about what it kind of was that made me cry as much as I can. But maybe if you want to read a particular book soon and you'd rather not know anything about it, then just skip that part. I'm just going to start from the top from January and work my way through the year in tears. So, first up, we have Onyx Storm. All of these books so far have made me cry, typically more towards the end of the book. This one made me cry more than the others and throughout the book. Partly that is because of the recovered correspondence sections, and I think the book's doing a really good job of kind of building your dread of how things might end and how things might not go the way that we want them to go as readers. Also, is a particular chapter towards the end, one of the ones that is not in Violet's POV. And if you've kind of ever experienced just feeling really overwhelmed by darkness and like you're tempted to give up, like you're tempted to give into it, and then there's just something that you can latch onto that makes you think, no, I will not give way to this, I will hold on, there is something worth holding on for. And that was the chapter that for me kind of encapsulated that feeling, and it absolutely destroyed me when I read the actual book when it first came out. When I re-listened to the graphic audio book 6 months later, exactly the same. I was just like, oh my god. Next up, we have The Dark Mirror. This is the fifth book in Samantha Shannon's The Bone Season series, which is an absolutely brilliant kind of dystopian fantasy series set in an alternative futuristic London. I started reading this series when the first book came out in 2013, and by the time The Dark Mirror came out this year, we'd had a gap of 4 years without a book. This is a series which has a incredibly slow burn romance going on, and we'd been left on quite a cliffhanger on the previous book, Mask Falling, and just seeing how that played out after waiting all that time, there was just such a release of emotions, just some beautiful scenes in this book. This is a series that I highly recommend. There's two more books still to come. The next one's hopefully coming out next year, 2027. So there is a bit of a wait between books, but it's so worth it. Next up, we have several of the Throne of Glass books. I found the series did take a while to sort of get into its groove and really find its emotional level and start to open up the world and everything. But once it did, once it had a hold of me, it really had a hold of me. I'm just going to say, from Air of Fire, The Orchestra, Moment of Silence, and onwards from there, like most of the books had a lot of really impactful moments that just really got to me. Probably the exception being Tower of Dawn, just because it was not particularly my favourite characters, and I didn't feel quite engaged enough with them to tip me over into crying territory. Kingdom of Ash, obviously, repeatedly, absolutely wrecked me, as it does most of us who read it, I think. So many moments, but especially chapter 89. Never getting over that. Never forgetting it. Oh, just devastating. Next up, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So the premise of this is that Addie LaRue makes a deal with kind of the devil, or devil-like figure, in which she gains immortality in exchange for her soul, but he doesn't get to have her soul until she decides she's sick of living. But the twist being that nobody will ever remember her for more than a day at most. So she can go and spend a whole day with someone, talking to them, getting to know them, and the next morning they're going to wake up and they won't even remember who she is. Sometimes it's just a case of, she leaves the room and comes back and they've already forgotten her. And Addie's already lived through quite a lot of centuries when we meet her in the story, and she's really been kind of making the most of life. She's definitely not sick of it yet. And then she meets someone where things are different. And this story kind of really makes you think about what it would be like to live like that. The idea of immortality is certainly tempting, but imagine never being able to really develop any relationships or true connections with anyone, because they're just going to forget who you are. It's like you just leave no impression on the world. I found this a really beautiful story and also really quite heartbreaking. Is Watermoon, which I didn't really expect to be a book that made me cry, because it felt at times quite a sort of cozy, whimsical type fantasy. Our main characters are going on a bit of a Studio Ghibli adventure, and it's all very enchanting. But our main female character basically works at a shop where people can trade something in order to get rid of a memory of like a decision, a choice they've made, and the kind of associated regrets about maybe what they did or did about maybe what they did or didn't do. And I did find, as someone who is a massive overthinker about the past and decisions that I'd made and wishing that I'd maybe done things a different way, there were a lot of aspects of this book that it kind of built up towards the ending. Just really, I found myself quite chucked up about it. Then we have Fairy This is really a Marmite book. People seem to either really love it or absolutely hate it. For me, I really enjoy like a kind of massively unhinged, chaotic, or what the hell is going on type vibe. Quite a sort of dark, beautiful gothic atmosphere for a lot of this book. It's very long, just as a warning, if that's not for you, it is very long. It takes place in some different time periods, some different timelines are going on. Really won't understand a lot of what it's about until you get quite far into the book, so you have to like commit to it. The sort of longing, the yearning, what some of the characters go through for each other and to be together. Oh, I loved it. Then we have Atmosphere. This is a love story. It says that at the start of the book. It's also a story about the kind of space program in the 80s. And as someone who has such vivid memories of being a little girl and going to Florida, going to Kennedy Space Center, seeing the tributes to astronauts lost in the Challenger disaster, I was always so fascinated by the idea of going into space and then seeing these tributes to people who lost their lives for this dream. Really left an impression on me. And this book is very inspired by those kind of events. Also does have that love story at the heart of it too. And Taylor Jenkins Reid, I think, is just brilliant at kind of weaving a love story in a kind of real historical context in a way that just, oh. Then we have Enchantra. This is another one that I really was not expecting to make me cry, because I thought it was mostly just like a fun, spicy vibes read. But then towards the end, there is a trope that I just find absolutely heartbreaking. Anytime I come across it, it's something that obviously I'm not going to say because it's spoilery. It's something that did happen in Vampire Diaries, and I remember just being so absolutely devastated. And it was the same here. Sunrise on the Reaping was next, and obviously, you know, most of us know what to expect with the Hunger Games and the type of emotional damage that comes with that world. Haymitch's story is no different. In fact, I'd say it's probably one of the most heartbreaking of all of the stories so far. I'm often a bit dubious about movie adaptations of books, but I think this one is going to be really good. It looks so well cast. I can't wait to be devastated all over again. Then we have Blood Over Brighthaven. I'm really not going to say a lot about this one because I do think it's best to go in blind to this brilliant book. But what I will say is just imagine if the world as you know it and everything that you believe in is shown to be built on a foundation of lies, of horrible, horrific lies, and what that might do and what that might lead you to. Yeah, this is a great book. In September, with Alchemized coming out, I decided I was going to read Manacle, the fanfiction that it's based on, and I found it so absolutely immersive, engrossing, devastating, heartbreaking that as soon as I finished it, went straight on then and read Alchemized. You know, it is its own story and it definitely kind of fleshes things out more, has more world building, all of that. It's a great book. It does hit a lot of the same plot beats, and I just wanted to experience it all over again. Yes, maybe I'm insane. I went through that emotional damage straight away, twice in a row. That took some getting over, I can tell you. It's a love story, it's also a war story. There is a lot of tragedy. Really demonstrates the damage that war does, not just the kind of obvious things, destruction of lives, destruction of places, but just the emotional damage too and the long lasting effects that carry on way after the fighting ends. I have Crescent City. I did read all three, but only book one made me cry. I did think it was the best of the three, which is quite unusual for me to prefer the first of a trilogy. All of the last 150 pages, I was crying. I think it's such a brilliant sequence with our characters putting up a desperate resistance. Our main character is mostly quite isolated, even though there are some other characters kind of trying to help, doing their own heroic actions. But a lot of the characters are unable to do anything but watch from afar. It was thrilling, but it was also like, oh, girl, I'm really feeling for you here. This is just so much. Then we had Empire of the Dawn. This was the culmination of the Empire of the Vampire trilogy. It's the final book where our characters continue to be just put through so much trauma and tragedy as they have done throughout the series. In this series, basically, vampires have managed to take over through a curse which has largely hidden the sun and made things very difficult for human beings. And our main characters are trying to find a way to break this curse, and they have just been through so much. It's just your heart just breaks for them at this point. It's such a good, dark, beautiful, brutal trilogy. Absolutely read it. Then we have Shy Creatures. This is probably not a book I'd have ever picked up. It was picked by my book group, and I'm so glad it was. And basically, at the start of this book, a man is found who's been living with his aunt, and he hasn't left his house in like 20 years. He presents in quite a childlike manner in some respects. And as we go through the book, we kind of find out what's led to the situation, how this came to be. It kind of goes backwards through time to show all the things that has happened to him. And I just thought it did a brilliant job of kind of really expressing his isolation, how desperate he was just to connect with a friend. It absolutely broke my heart. It's a book I will not forget. Finally, we have The Everlasting. This is a book in which one of our main characters is a knight in the past, and the other one is an academic in the present who finds a kind of historic manuscript about the knight, the Lady Knight, which we're seeing quite a lot of in books this year. And timey-wimey stuff ends up happening. Yes, this is a bit of a time travel book. Meets her, relationship develops. I won't say too much about how the plot unfolds, but the longing, the yearning, what he has to go through over and over again. Oh, this is a beautifully written story, a really good book. So that's all of mine from last year. I'm hoping for even more this year. Just give it to me. If you have any recommendations of things that made you cry, please let me know. I want to hear about them all and put them on my list.